presentations and discussions. Thank you. Presentation FY 25 audit. Ben Wilkinson, Senior Manager, CBIZ. CBIZ.
Good evening, everyone. Kerry Bertoni, CFO. Ben Wilkinson is on Zoom, and he has a 10-page slide presentation for all of you.
Just getting linked up on, getting
Okay.
him on Zoom.
Thank you.
Ben, as you're presenting, Kerry's going to move the slides, so just acknowledge when you want the slide moved, okay?
Sure, sounds good. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ben Wilkinson. I was the senior manager on the town's audit for the year ended June 30th, 2025. First, I want to send a big thank you out to the town staff for their assistance with the audit. Carrie, Linda, the school side as well, town administrator, making the audit go as smoothly as possible without any hiccups. So big thank you to them. Next slide, please. Tonight, my presentation will largely cover the audit results, as well as the required communications to governance. I'll then take you through sort of high level the format of the financial statements and where to find certain relevant information for yourself as the council and for the public. Next slide. So we issued 2 audit opinions, both on April 6, 2026. The first was for the town's financial statements that covers the entire financial ecosystem of the town. The second report was the audit of the town's federal award programs, otherwise known as the single audit. Testing over major federal expenditures and reporting to the federal government. Both opinions were unmodified or clean, which means there were no deviations. A clean opinion is the gold standard in the audit world, so the town achieved that ultimate goal. Next slide, please. In terms of our required communications, there were no instances of fraud or illegal acts. There were no material uncertainties. At the beginning of our audit process, we go through a robust planning and risk assessment process. Throughout planning and our fieldwork all the way through issuance, there were no significant changes or deviations to that plan. Otherwise known as there were no surprises, there were no 11th hour surprises or hiccups. So the audit went according to plan. You will notice in the financial statements, there is required supplementary information in both the front and the back. In the front is management's discussion and analysis, which is about 10 pages that lays out management's snapshot of operating results, budgetary results, goes over the debt landscape, any major capital projects, and kind of goes over, for the next fiscal year and fiscal 26, any changes that are upcoming. In the back of the statements, you will find the general fund budget to actual, as well as various pension and OPEB schedules. Those schedules lay out, the funding statuses, the contributions the town has made to both pension and OPEB, and lays out what those liabilities are for the town as of June 30th, 2025. I will say, in terms of our responsibilities to that RSI, we're required to make inquiries of management regarding the methods that went into preparing it. We read them for consistency. We read the MD&A for consistency against the basic statements and the footnotes to make sure everything is in sync. But I will say, in terms of the RSI, that is not in the purview of our opinion over the financial statements. It's a very limited approach and really just looking for consistency, but we do not express an opinion over that information. Next slide, please. Next, because it's a government, there is under Yellow Book as well, there is the reporting under government auditing standards. There were no instances of non-compliance or other matters. There were no reportable material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. I'll put one asterisk on that item. Under our audit, internal control is for limited purposes for us to gain an understanding. As part of our audit, we do not test the operating effectiveness. So while no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies arose, I can't definitively say that they don't exist. Just in the terms of our scope of audit, nothing came to our attention that rose to that level of reporting to you. Next slide. In terms of accounting changes this year, there were 2 standard implementations from the folks over at the GASB. The first, GASB 101, was the significant and material impacted statement this year under compensated absences. It essentially changed the measurement of comp absences, so the town now has to take a holistic approach and not just consider what may be paid out at termination or retirement. It has to take into consideration all time that has been earned by current employees and may be used in the future, as well as those potential payouts down the road. You will notice in note 21 and on the government-wide financial statements, there was a restatement of about $4 million to opening net position as a result of this standard implementation. But because this is one of those necessary evils from the folks at the GASB, this does not result in any internal control finding or anything of that nature. Every town, every city, school, town, state across the country had to implement this standard last year. The second statement, GASB 102, really just falls under, if the town were to lose a material taxpayer or a material revenue stream, disclosing that to the readers and what management's plan is to sort of recoup, any of that funding that was lost. This did not have an impact on the town's financial statements this year, but it still was implemented in case anything may arise in the future. In terms of our audit throughout the planning and the field work, there were no significant or unusual transactions noted. Based on our audit, there were no alternative accounting practices discussed with management. So everything went to plan, nothing major to report there. Next slide, please. Again, in terms of any material audit adjustments, there were none. In terms of financial statement disclosures, I would point you to notes 17, 18, and 19 regarding those pension and OPEB liabilities. It discloses, the assumptions, the discount rates, provides more clarity into the sort of the arithmetic behind those figures. There were no conflict of interest or related party matters noted. We did not have any disagreements with management at any phase of the audit. To our knowledge, there were no management consultations with other accountants. We, as the auditors, didn't have any other consultations. And again, no significant difficulties were encountered throughout, from planning all the way through issuance. Next slide, please. So I'll just take you high level through the financial statements. I'm not going to get into too much of the nuts and bolts. Just the general form. The first pages is the audit opinion that lays out the responsibilities of ourselves, management, and ultimately that opinion that was unmodified or clean. Next, we go into the management discussion and analysis, which I mentioned earlier, followed by the basic statements. Of note, the general fund is always a major fund, so that's standing out there. Goes through the operating results of all the funds and the opinion units of the town. Followed by those statements, you have your enterprise funds, sewer, water, stormwater, trash, going through the results of those funds and operations. And then the largest chunk really is the notes, which gives more of the backstory and more of the clarity to the reader about what's behind the numbers that are in the front. And again, as mentioned at the end, is those RSI items related to pension OPEB and the general fund budget to actual. So that's just high level kind of where to find key details from the statements in terms of navigating them to learn more. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll open it for questions and discussion.
Questions? Mike?
Thank you, Ben. Ben, on the $4 million adjustment that one time, I'm assuming it probably was predominantly sick time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
When did the 2025 audit start?
We started at the beginning of November.
Okay. And it closed in April?
Correct.
Any way, and this is for Carrie as well, any way we can tighten that up? It is July whatever of 2026, and we're talking about 2025, June, so we're coming up on 13 months. How do we tighten this up so that it's a little closer to the close of a fiscal year?
Sure. Well, this agenda item was moved. It was scheduled sooner to be presented to the council, but it was moved to
I'm
this
not even
date.
talking presenting to the council, but
Well-
even to have it done before April. I mean, it's still 9 months post a period. That's pretty
Yep.
long. So how do we close that gap?
So
I
I'm going
guess?
to refer back to Ben. from CBIZ on that, because I have to wait for the draft of financial statement, and then it goes through many quality control with the partners at CBIZ.
Correct. Ben, any suggestions on how to tighten the gap up?
Yes, I mean, we can definitely look at the timeline in terms of, I mean, the town is pretty ready at the November. There's some odds and ends that may come later, maybe an OPEB report or something that pushes us into the new year. Historically, the job has issued in the middle of March, early March. But that's definitely something that we can commit to working on, accelerating that timeline forward. There's no reason that we can't tighten that.
Great, I'd appreciate that. I mean, obviously, there's nothing material here, but if there ever was something material,
Understood.
it'd be greater to know that sooner rather than later. There were a couple of comments in the package that I wanted to just highlight or talk about. On page 31 in deposits, there's a sentence in there that says, as of June 30th, 2025, none of the town's bank balance of $53 million, comma, $12.7 million was exposed to custodial risk as uninsured and uncollateralized. I don't know if you have the document up, Ben, but my question is that just a wrong typing and that 12 million shouldn't be in there? Or do we have $12.8 million that's exposed to custodial risk as such as uninsured and uncollateralized?
To my knowledge, that 12 million is an accurate figure, but I'll refer back to Carrie on that one.
Yes, and I'll get back to you
Okay,
on that.
okay. Because, yeah, as I read that sentence, it looks like that 12 million that number shouldn't be in there because it's saying none of the bank balance of 50 was exposed to custodial risk, or is there really, that just the wording doesn't sound right?
Correct. So
Ultimately, is there $13 million
We can take a look at
to custodial risk? Then I would have an issue. Then we do have a $13 million risk out there.
Understood.
Okay.
So we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you. And the other thing I noted was in the long-term, what was it under? Property taxes and excises receivable, there is tax liens. Almost 90% of our tax liens are long-term. So Carrie, can you talk a little bit more about the $700,000 of tax liens that are in a long-term position, and how do we go about potentially collecting those past taxes? What's the process to that?
So what page are you referring to?
That's on page 35
Thank you.
of the document?
Of the financial statement?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure before I try to answer this.
It's under the property tax and excise receivable section. And I apologize for not sending it to you ahead of time.
That's okay. I might not be able to fully answer your question, but I am going to say it's because of the outstanding property tax bills or the tax liens.
Correct.
Yes. So there are
Correct.
liens on the property tax that have not their liens, and we haven't gone for foreclosure, and they're with land court. I mean, each individual parcel will probably have an explanation, which
Okay.
I can get.
That'd be great. That'd be
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you. For now, that's all I have for questions.
Okay.
Not to say I may not have more if you guys take me down a different direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let me just get to that. I guess, we've had a lot of citizens who've claimed baselessly that the town's finances are mismanaged. Could you say definitively that, at least in terms of the audit, how can you attest to the management of our town's finances?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of our audit scoping, nothing material came about, that would rise to being reported to you. Based on our, work of internal controls, our walkthroughs, there didn't appear to be any systemic issues in the accounting finance office. From our view, they have the necessary skills, knowledge, and experience to be in those positions. And to ultimately take responsibility for the financial statements. Nothing came to our attention throughout any of our testing that there was anything that was, within our reasonable assurance standard that was out of whack.
So there's no evidence of any mismanagement?
Not based on our audit procedures and our audit scoping, no.
That's what I like to hear. And how, in terms of other towns that you've audited, how does Franklin sort of compare to sort of it's the audit that has come up?
I think the town is in line with, the majority of the towns that issue clean opinions. Again, no systemic issues, no major issues in internal controls, no questions of management ethics. From our perspective as the independent outside auditor, the town is, obviously the town is a large town in Massachusetts, but in comparison to the other towns, I even audit towns in Maine and in Rhode Island, the town is on solid footing from our view if we're taking a look at New England as a whole and in Massachusetts.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's all I got for you. Thank you.
Okay. Steve?
I don't really have any detailed questions. I read through it. I'm glad you had the opinion that you did. I'm glad everything kind of tied out and looks right. I'll need some more time to go through this and refer back to this during the course of the year as we start talking about budgets and everything else again, but I'm satisfied that we're okay.
The audit went well.
Yep.
Ken?
Apologies if I miss it. How long have you been auditing our results?
So the firm through merged in firms has been the auditor for over a decade. I have been on the account for 2 years now.
All right. Yeah, it looked like there was nothing new or surprising that came up, which is great. I just wanted to have a sense of how familiar you and your firm were with the results. It seems seems fairly standard. Seems like in good shape. So no questions.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, thank you. I wanted to comment that I think this is pretty impressive that there were no audit adjustments, which means I think that everything was correct by the time the auditors got to it, which I thought was impressive. And then no significant or unusual transactions means, right, that there's no accounting maneuvers that concerned anyone. So I think those are really good signs. Ben, you said there's nothing that was significant enough to become a finding that was presented to us, but was there anything that you noticed that maybe we should be keeping our eye on for the next few years?
I mean, I think in general, seeing my view of governments across the region, and, we see in the news all the time about cybersecurity, information technology, the rise of AI, definitely keeping a pulse on those items, making sure that, training continues at the town, just so you don't get into situations where, you may be hacked or anything like that. I think that's the biggest area we as auditors see as potential weaknesses for, a large amount of municipalities, whether that's through budget restraints or, other things like that. But I think that would be my biggest critical thing. As we move more into the digital world than we already have in the rise of AI, just ensuring that those bad actors, the town doesn't fall suspect to any of those potential hacks. So definitely I would take a look at that. Based on our audit, the town has sufficient policies, procedures, training in place for all of that stuff. But just always my biggest recommendation is continue to be vigilant about those rises.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Gene?
Yeah, just going down that path of cybersecurity, have you seen in some of the towns you audit where they've taken maybe a different tact on that as far as maybe hiring outside consultants, or do you have any recommendations to make on that behalf?
So the biggest thing, and I think one of the weaknesses that I see in other clients, is the ability for the town to produce a risk assessment, to have an assessment of any potential vulnerabilities that may be out there, just to get a basic survey of, hey, we think we're doing a good job, but where can we improve? I have some clients that work with DHS at the federal level to come in and do screenings. There are many vendors, CBIZ as one of them, can come in and do an IT assessment based on, what we see the industry moving towards and having those appropriate safeguards in place. The other thing, I think also the rise of cyber insurance, taking a look if, making sure that insurance policies are up to date, up to, any potential exposure, taking a look at all that kind of stuff.
Do we have cyber insurance?
We do. Yep.
Yeah, we
Yeah, we do. We also have a training program. It's been going on for about 6 years, mandatory for all school and town employees, where we put out, it's called Know Before. Some of you may be familiar with the company.
Yeah.
But they do surprise emails and test everybody. You get a score. We see where areas are. And our staff have been improving significantly, and I think that's probably not from the training too, but also just seeing things in the news. being more aware of stuff. So we do a lot on this issue.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, I don't remember you presenting to us last year, so are you new as the team lead?
So this is my second year on the team. Scott McIntyre, the shareholder, has done the presentation the last many, many years. So I was tagged in for tonight.
No, I think it's great because I remember in the past, it was reported to us that you, to keep fresh eyes on the process, you guys kind of moved around with who was going to be
Yep.
the lead, and I see Carrie kind of nodding her head, right? I think that's great. It's impressive, once again, to not have a management letter and to get a clean audit report. I think it's important to note to the public, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not required to do this, right?
No.
No, we choose to do this.
Yeah, this was, I think, a thing, yeah, we choose.
Which I think is important for the public to see that this council and this administration for years has chosen that this is a priority to make sure that our finances are clean and that there aren't any issues. You can go through audit reports online going back many, many years. You won't find a management letter, and I praise to the staff and to all of the boards that contribute to making sure that that happens, and to our friends on the school side for managing the money correctly and accounting for it correctly. It's very, very impressive. So thank you for your presentation.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. The cybersecurity stuff is very important, as we know. Kerry, we know. So, but that's awesome. And I have talked to a couple employees. They do get the funny emails, and they pick up on it right away from their training. So that's excellent to know. You know what I mean? They get tested, and it does work out good. So Ben, thank you, because you talk a lot faster than the other guy did. So I do appreciate that. So I hope to see you back next year.
I'll second
Awesome,
that.
thank you, everybody.
Hold on.
I didn't know if the finance committee members had any questions, because this is their first bite at the apple.
What's it? You're good? I thought they didn't raise their hand, so I didn't
All
think.
nodding okay back there.
They're all nodding, okay. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. And by the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.